Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we spotlight Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face from the movie The Dark Knight. It's another episode of Batman movie villains, and we've now reached Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight from 2008. In the movie we're introduced to Harvey Dent, the new DA in Gotham City, who's been inspired by Batman's crusade against corruption to take a stand against evil himself. Dent is the first good and honest man in office for decades, giving the city sorely needed hope for the future. He's the hero Batman can never be, as the Dark Knight, played by Christian Bale, operates outside of the law, hiding his true identity. Harvey is a public figure with a face, who shows that the system can work in the favor of decent people and justice. Dent also successfully formed a secret alliance with the Masked Manhunter, combining their efforts for the good of Gotham, a deal which Lieutenant James Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, is also in on. Harvey and Gordon don't quite see eye to eye though, as the police lieutenant is willing to compromise his honesty by working together with known corrupt cops in order to get things done. Meanwhile, Dent is also dating Rachel Dawes, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, an assistant DA in his office, and Bruce Wayne's childhood friend and major crush. Naturally, there's a love triangle drama going on there, but nevertheless, Harvey plans to propose to Rachel and tie the knot. Of course, all of Dent's happy plans are ruined by the Joker, a mysterious mass-murdering terrorist clown, played by Heath Ledger, who wishes to descend the city into chaos. One part of that plan involves killing off Gotham's hope, namely by tarnishing the image of the city's greatest hero, DA Harvey Dent. And what better way to do that than by turning the guy into a murderous monster? All that takes is having Harvey experience one really bad day, involving the death of his gal Rachel and the hideous disfigurement of half of his face. I know many of you have been waiting for this one, probably because Two-Face is my #1 guy, so I bet you're curious as to what I think of the Eckhart version, arguably the most famous depiction of the character, especially now that Batman Forever and the animated series are getting so old. By the way, it's going to get pretty personal now. I'll never forget the waiting for The Dark Knight to be released. It was something truly special to me. I've never been so excited about a movie in my life, and I don't think I ever will be again, not even if my ultimate Arkham movie was announced. Part of that is because I was 18. Well, the waiting began already when I was 15, and when you're at that age, you're easier to impress, being all innocent and wet behind the ears. We also hadn't gotten that many superhero movies yet, and the idea of a dark and sophisticated film in that genre seemed really new and exciting at the time. And then of course you had the fact that Harvey Dent was going to be in the movie. I liked Batman Begins, and as soon as I heard a sequel was being made with the Joker as the villain, I got really hyped. But when I found out that Dent was also going to be featured, that's when I got really excited. The only live action portrayal of Two-Face we had at the time was Tommy Lee Jones, and I hated that one. Now we were finally gonna get the proper Two-Face on film, or so I thought. That's what I kept on thinking, all the way from late 2006 to that moment I sat down in the theater one beautiful sunny summer day of 2008. To be exact, it was at the moment when dear old Harv never got up from that damn fall that I realized I had been played for a sucker. 10 minutes worth of screen time is about what we got from Two-Face, and I've never been so let down and heartbroken in my life. Not even when my first girlfriend broke up with me, which actually happened the same month. Not a good month for Rogues. Well, I'm being kinda dramatic here. I actually loved the movie, but it was bittersweet, as the ending with Two-Face already dead did disappoint me. What made it worse is that I refused to accept it. Instead, I told myself and others for years that Nolan's Dent was perfect and everything I had waited for. I guess I just couldn't face the truth, that all my investment and the 3-year wait for a definitive movie Two-Face had been for nothing. After The Dark Knight Rises came out, and I began to get some distance to the Nolan trilogy, I finally started to be honest with myself and admit that Eckhart's Dent wasn't everything that I had ever wanted. So what exactly do I think about this version of the character? In a nutshell, you could say he's Gordon from The Killing Joke, a heroic man who's used by the Joker in an experiment to prove that even the noblest of shining knights can be turned into a monster, as long as they're pushed hard enough. The difference is in the comic book, Joker's plan failed, and in the movie it succeeded. Now that is some brilliant writing there, and from a plot standpoint, it's a very clever usage of the character. And that's the thing about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. They both kinda misused, or underused perhaps is a better way to word it, some of the rogues. However, the way they were utilized fit the plot perfectly, and the plots of those two movies are damn great, so it's almost hard to complain about it. What could Nolan do to change these characters yet still keep his plots intact? In The Dark Knight, Harvey is kinda used as a plot device, the White Knight who Joker must tear down in order to accomplish his goal. But you can also view it as a character arc for Harvey, an honest, somewhat naive man who believes in the system and good, only to have everything taken away from him. Dent feels completely betrayed by his own beliefs and realizes that the world is a cruel and unjust place, contrary to what he had thought. He kept his nose clean and tried to be a decent man, and look where it got him. Half his face gone, the love of his life dead, and Gordon, the man who rubbed elbows with corrupt scumbag cops, gets away scot-free. Batman, the vigilante who breaks dozens of laws by merely existing, also got away scot-free, or so Dent believes. No, that's not fair. Not fair at all. Harvey has to do something about that. He has to enforce his own brand of justice and make things fair. The coin is a large part of that, because what's more fair than a random coin flip? A 50-50 chance. It's completely unbiased and unprejudiced. The Dark Knight's Harvey Dent is a fascinating character, one who makes you wonder what you yourself would do if subjected to a similar fate to Harvey's. Would I also become a monster if I lost everything, including my set of beliefs? Who knows until it happens. So if Two-Face is so great in this movie, then why am I complaining so much? Simply because he isn't Two-Face. This is not a man torn between good and evil. This is a good man who became evil. He has no split personality in this movie, no internal conflict between the light and the dark. But what really irks me still to this day is that Harv was killed off so damn quickly. I guess it's a bit impossible for me to look at this movie subjectively due to my personal investment in it, and I can never get over my expectations of it. I admit that that's wrong, and I should just take the movie for what it is, and not what I wanted it to be. But I can't quite do that. I was so certain that Dent was going to go on to be the main villain in Nolan's third movie, and that The Dark Knight was the mere introduction of him. And it kinda still is, depending on how you view it. I mean, it works perfectly as a complete arc for the character, the way he's written in the movie, but considering he becomes Two-Face so late, it could have been his origin story too. There's just so much more to the character than what we're given here. Harvey is a supervillain, a freaking rogue who can hold entire cities hostage. He ain't just some broken, angry man with a gun who quickly dies. As good as this version is written, it kinda feels insulting to depict a great Two-Face like that. He should be on the same level as the Joker and Bane are in these movies. It's the same case with Nolan's Scarecrow, who's just a pawn in Ra's al Ghul's scheme. Two-Face is ultimately a pawn too in Joker's scheme. As for Aaron Eckhart's performance, it's plain brilliant. He's very likable and charismatic as Harvey Dent, and he does a great job in portraying the despair and anger of Two-Face. Eckhart was a perfect choice for the role as well, as he's got the right chiseled and dashing look, which Harvey is supposed to have. Tommy Lee didn't really have that. This has been said many times, but Eckhart's performance is certainly a part of The Dark Knight, which is generally overlooked. Most people just focus on Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker, but that's understandable, as that character is way more colorful and eccentric in the movie. So the visual design of Two-Face. Just like many of the other Nolan rogues, Harvey's look is pretty boring and bland. Instead of a snazzy two-tone suit, he's wearing a regular grey one, which has been slightly burned on the left side. It's one of the dullest outfits the character has ever worn, but it makes sense in the context of the movie. It just wouldn't have worked for this version of Dent to just suddenly start wearing colorful two-tone suits. Not with the approach that Nolan went with for these movies. His scarring is pretty unrealistic though. They just went way too far with it. I mean, there's no chance a guy could live and function normally with extreme burns like that. It looks okay, but doesn't quite fit with the realistic tone of the movie. That's not exactly something that bothers me though, as I don't care that much about realism. I think design is more important. But this design isn't really that great in my opinion. It's not bad, but not quite my cup of tea. It might be the colors. All that gray just looks so dull. Just like Nolan's Scarecrow, the design here is pretty meh. In conclusion, Eckhart's Dent is a very fascinating alternate take on a character, but it's not my Two-Face, and I'm still waiting on that ultimate Two-Face movie. Will it ever come? Probably not in my lifetime. I doubt Ben Affleck will use Dent, so we'll have to wait till the next reboot, probably, and who knows how long that'll be. Nolan's Dent is however a vast improvement over the Tommy Lee one, and I'm glad that we now have a serious depiction of the villain in live action at least. Next up on Batman movie villains, we'll be taking a look at Tom Hardy's Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, so stay tuned for that. We're getting pretty close to the end now. Anyway, as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.